I don't play by those rules. And since that rule book isn't even in my mental vocabulary, I don't have that rule book. Therefore, I just feel a lot more free to write music how I want to be how I want to be vulnerable, be whatever I want to be at that time. And when you live by those rules, I just feel like it's a freer life. And I feel like that journey kind of came just in finding mental health, and finding peace and understanding that like you are not your brain.
Welcome back to Schmoozing Time. For all my new listeners, my name is David Cobby, and I'm so excited to bring you this week's episode of Schmoozing Time. Each week, I get to schmooze with proud Jews across the world and discuss what makes up their personal brand. This week's guest is actually tremendously different from anyone I've ever interviewed. In fact, I'd even argue he might be my most passionate guest I've ever had. When you pursue a career in music, you need passion, and this man has tons of it. Please welcome the artist and creator behind the hit song, We Ain't Going Nowhere, Azriel, Ezzi, Hirsch. Ezzi, what's going on, man? How we doing today?
What's going on? I really liked hearing my name, Azriel. It's funny. I always tell people, if I'm in the street or I'm around and I hear someone say Azriel, I'm like, okay, 1 second. That guy's known me for many, many years. He hasn't known me just since the music career, because that's what I go by. I introduced myself to like people. I was like, Azriel. Now it kind of morphed into like, well, people will ask me oftentimes, are you the singer, Ezzi? I'm like, yeah, Ezzi. So now I just try to just cut to the chase. If they want to know, yeah, I'm Ezzi. But typically I just introduce myself as Azriel. So when people call me Azriel, it brings me back to like my youth, because that's my name. That's what I go by.
I know what you mean. I feel like I had to throw in the first name there just to put myself out there. But Ezzi, I'm fired up for this interview, man. Like, I mean,
same here, brother. Same here.
You've done.
I feel the vibes.
You've done such an amazing job with your music, and I mean, I can tell you, like right now, like the fact that you're putting out music that's so positive and that's so emotional. Right? Like not a lot of artists are doing that, man. Like, and I can tell you, like, you're already climbing the steps up to success. You're getting there, but man, like you're going to be selling out MSG one day. Like I can feel it. I don't even laugh it now, but I can feel it, man.
I do appreciate the positivity. I don't know about all that. For me, I try to just stay tunnel vision. Just work on the task ahead. But it's nice to hear that, like, my music being positive is a journey for sure. And it's something I work on till this day when I write. Like I'm scrapping ideas all the time because I'm like, yo, this is just it's too dark. And coming from a place of where I feel like a lot of my songwriting was initially more like a struggle-based songwriting session. And then more recently, I kind of try to really find positive spins and outlooks and all that, and a lot of people resonate with the struggle. So there's definitely a big, toelis there, and there's a mission there for sure. And also I, in general, something I've struggled a lot with, like in my life. It's just the whole like mental health space in terms of like just the overall equilibrium of happiness and just kind of finding that peace, which happens a lot with creatives and artists. It's not a new thing that a lot of people, artistic people can have a hard time just being super grounded and just like normal, But that was a journey for me for sure, starting off like 10, 11 years ago when I just started feeling like a little bit different than it, and I had to kind of navigate emotions, thoughts, and all that. Thank God, I'm in a really strong place because I had to learn a lot about the mind and thoughts and emotions and soul and consciousness and all that stuff, which obviously got me to places that I never thought I would be as just a regular operating mind. But because of those struggles, a lot of the music comes from a very deep place of like passion, maybe struggle. So not always does it come across as positive, but I say this quite often when people talk to me. I have a Rebbe, his name is Rebbe Kalish, and when I was, he's the head Rebbe of Waterbury. I was a dorm counselor there, and I never attended as a high school kid. I just was in LA at the time, but I went there later on in life at like 21. Most people that go there is more for like a high school, but it's a magical place, an incredible place. And one thing he told me was like, you can be honest in your writing, but like it shouldn't just be just like venting struggle just for struggle. There should be a positive hope and spin on some point in the song. So it's like, go be as authentic as you want to be, let it all out. But with not just for vein of, okay, now here's my therapy session, go out. There should be some sort of yearning for hope in the beginning and something where at least you're saying, yeah, there's struggles, but this is not the end of it. And that's something that I definitely internalized when the song's as deep as I'll get and as intense I'll get, there'll be a positive spin somewhere in the song. So I try to do that. And now I'm actually trying to focus more towards overall positive songs. Like We Ain't Going Nowhere is a positive song, and I have a few songs coming out that is very positive. But anyways, yeah, I went on a tangent when you said positive, because I've gotten a lot of flack from people in the past, maybe 5-6 years, of real like listeners who know all my stuff, be like, why is it so dark and why is it so raw? And I'm like, I wish I had a better answer for you. I'm an honest writer, so it's not always just going to be blueberries and peaches, but either way.
Yeah, man. Well, I just want to say this show is all about tangents, man. Schmoozing time, we schmooze. We do. There's no agenda here. Like I have some things I want to talk about with you, and but it's great to have you on. And I think to set the stage for everybody, I think a big part of your identity is the fact that you are from LA. And most of my guests, I think I said this on past episodes, they're from East Coast Jews. There's definitely something different between an East Coast Jew and a West Coast Jew and a Midwest Jew and Israeli, whatever. But so I do want you to, to set the stage for everybody. I want you to talk about your Jewish upbringing, living in LA. I mean, obviously LA's got a vibrant Jewish community. And I've relatives out there. I've visited there many times in my youth. So it's definitely a fun Jewish community. But talk a little bit about like your Jewish upbringing and maybe set the stage for, how you became such a proud Jew.
I love that question because I do a fair share of podcasts, not major. I'm not like a major, I'm not like a major name to do podcasts, but I've done a dozen or so in my life. But this question specifically is nice, the whole LA spin on it, because there is like a big difference between like a West Coast community Jew versus like a regular like Brooklyn Jew. And I first learned this when I went to camp as a kid, and I went to a camp in the East Coast. And I was just meeting all these like New York Jews. I'm like, what is happening? It was like such a culture shock. And then now I'm very well acquainted. My wife is originally from, Muncie. So like I'm very well acquainted to all sort of, coasts and all types of cultures and people. Either way, growing up in LA, it's a nice question because there's definitely something different about the way an LA kid grew up versus an East Coast kid. I actually grew up as a young kid, born and raised in I don't know if you're familiar, there's a place called the Valley, which is like North Hollywood. There's like the city and the Valley in LA. And I actually was born in the Valley, so it's even like more out of town than LA is. It's almost like, imagine like almost like farmland, It's not really, but like that type, So I grew up in a really small, really cool, I would say even like very Baal Tshuva community, which is really cool because both my parents are Baal Tshuva. And I think that adds a lot of just color and balance to what I have as a Jew growing up religious with, Baal Tshuva parents. There's some sort of like, that's cool. It's really cool. I like it. So growing up in the Valley, it was really, really small, tight-knit community, really warm, very like, I don't know, like just pick an out-of-town community. Cincinnati, very Minnesota is very just out of town, and it was really nice and everyone kind of knew each other. But there is a really strong sense of like pride when you kind of live in a community in LA where it's just like, it's the world of Hollywood and all that and music and entertainment. And you're not like disconnected from it because like you're in it. Like we grew up normal and regular, but yet we have something extra, special to us that we're like Orthodox Jews and we keep, like Shabbos and kosher, all these things. So it kind of definitely makes it feel almost more special because of like the contrast that we're living in a place where no one else is doing that. It's like, I always say, I don't know if I would be as passionate about Yiddishkeit if I just grew up in Mei Sharim, because like everyone else is doing it. It's almost like, I don't even feel as unique. So I always like give a lot of credit to those people who like grew up in like, super intense Yerushalayim. They're keeping it all because it's like something special is the fact that like, I don't know, we're different and we're like, we have something, but yet we also are engaged in the regular world. Like, we live in the regular world and walk the streets in the regular world, but we get to go to Shul on Shabbos. And there's something really nice about that. So growing up in LA definitely shaped a lot of my outlook on just the overall world in terms of just the global world. And also as a Jew, taking that kind of small town, pride, if you will. A lot of small towns have like this pride. Even though I kind of moved from the Valley when I was 10 to the city, which is a lot more vibrant. That the community here in the city is a lot more like, for sure, then. It was a lot more like established. Even there's kollels a lot more, and the valley was still it was like it was already established, but it wasn't as vibrant in terms of how many people and how many kollels and how many shuls. It just wasn't on the same level. So I almost felt like I kind of moved to the East Coast a bit because there was such a jump from the valley to the city. But yeah, that little small town like feel of like I'm just a regular, valley boy with pride of being a Jew, and seeing my parents who chose this life for themselves, because like they didn't grow up in this life. And they're definitely, as I get older, I appreciate those elements a lot more, of like saying like how they grew up completely, kind of secular in that world, but chose God. And that's like a lot more of an authentic, I feel like I have that upbringing from my parents where like Yiddishkeit in our home is a lot more authentic than some of maybe of my other peers, which might have felt more like rigid or forced or almost like just like technical, like go through the motions. So thank God I didn't have to deal with like that level of like the trauma and like, what is Yiddishkeit was always very real, because like they chose it. It was very sincere, and the best teaching that you can do is living. So like I saw that. There was no like, oh, do this and don't talk and show. Like I just saw them live a authentic real life. So that kind of built that basis of being like a proud Jew in a world of, craziness and LA and all that. So yeah, it definitely had a lot to do with it.
That's amazing to hear. I just feel like every time I get a new guest on, there's something new about their Jewish upbringing. And I think there's, you talk about Baal Tshuva, and for people that don't know what Baal Tshuva means, basically it's not converting, but you're going from being a secular Jew to choosing to become more religious and practice Judaism. Obviously, Shabbat, kosher are a big part of that. But those people are choosing it, as opposed to some people that are forced into it. And I think it's so interesting to hear kind of your take on it, where you were kind of, chosen to become more religious, as opposed to some people that aren't necessarily exposed to that aspect of it. And, I think there's a big struggle now with Judaism and the levels of observance. And I talk about this a million times on the podcast, where I think my listeners are sick of me saying this, but the whole idea between Orthodox, conservative, and Reform, I think, is the dumbest idea in the world. Obviously, there's different levels of observance, but at the end of the day, like, people are Jewish, and that's what matters. As long as you're proud to be Jewish and you're proud of your heritage and you're proud of what you do, that to me is a proud Jew. So I guess, like, kind of going off that tangent, like, I know there's a lot of things to struggle with in Judaism. And I know you mentioned you kind of didn't have that struggle of like connecting with God, because you said it was kind of like a seamless flow into becoming more religious and connecting with God through, going to shul, keeping Shabbat, keeping kosher, kind of the major things. But also, a big part of it is davening and showing up to shul 3 times a day. And, there's so much to Judaism that's so hard to keep. And I even struggle with it myself, to keep everything. So I guess for you, what are some of the struggles that you face with Judaism, on whether that's a day-to-day basis or just in your life? Can you talk a little bit about kind of some of your struggles that you've had with Judaism in the past?
For sure. Yeah. It's such a good question. I love the honesty. So, it's funny. I had kind of a journey that maybe most people who know me as an artist wouldn't really think. So in high school, I actually started being a lot more, like very serious in terms of like my learning. And I went to a high school, which was like a yeshiva high school, not really like a yeshiva, but like not really like it was definitely only boys, but like whatever, like it was kind of middle of the road kind of high school. And maybe 9th or 10th, maybe 10th grade, I really started just kind of getting really intense with my learning and my just my Judaism. And like I like for those years, like maybe 10th, 11th, like, well, I kind of say I skipped 11th grade. So for like 10th and 12th grade, I was like super like locked in. Like I was learning tons of hours a day. I was like super like maybe too intense looking back, just at being so young, but definitely like super like committed. And those years, obviously, you find a balance in life, but those years I think were actually really valuable, because that gave me like a certain backbone of appreciation of like Torah Judaism and what it means to connect to God's Torah in a way that I don't know if I would have had I not like been so locked in and really focused and, put down the time to study his Torah and be committed to the mitzvahs and all that. So, later on in life, obviously I went to yeshiva, which was very intense. And at that point, I think maybe it got a little bit too intense for me, where I had to kind of balance out in terms of just my own ideology. So, there was definitely positives to the intense learning, but I guess if it goes too intense, like anything else, if you go too extreme, it can kind of, shake you up a bit. So that's when I kind of took I said, okay, I need to find this again, kind of for myself. Like, let me go to a place that I'm comfortable in and all that. And that's really where my journey as like the Jew that I am today is like, okay, I'm gonna do this in a way where I feel it's authentic to me. And I think having just both sides of the spectrum, like coming from a place of like LA where it's like super normal, I'm really in touch with the world, but also having those really strong years of learning and meshing the two is something that was a struggle at the time of just like, okay, am I this or am I this? And am I this or am I this? And I realized I encompass all of that. And that's what makes us beautiful is like, every facet of our lives is something that we're supposed to, be like. Growing up in LA wasn't a mistake. Like, God didn't make a mistake putting me in LA. And obviously there's a certain level of like, I don't know, I'll use the word like normalcy in that, because like, just like, it was super like, it wasn't extreme. Growing up in LA, you can't, like, Yiddishkeit can't be extreme. Like, you're living in LA, it's just, it has to be coming from a really beautiful way of getting to, because if it's too extreme, like, I don't think there's a shot of like, of really getting someone in. There's so much going on. So there was definitely a struggle of just finding my own balance within Yiddishkeit. But thank God, I would say that I never really struggled with like the big things of Yiddishkeit. Like, thank God I never didn't keep Shabbos or didn't, whatever, keep kosher. Like, I was always like committed. And like, I felt that maybe that's my soul. That's a different conversation, is I feel like just my soul was always kind of connected, even if like mentally I went through situations that was kind of turning me off and be like, yo, this sounds a little bit too whack or too extreme. It's not really speaking to me. My soul will always kind of hold down the fort of like, okay, well, you got to trust yourself and like, and do what you believe is true to you. So I feel like my soul is my guiding light, which it is, because your soul is the only thing that you actually have from. It's actually a piece of God. That's we know that in deep Torah thoughts that like your soul comes from God, and so that's like I feel like that was my guiding light. So I never like kind of like left the path, but there was definitely a struggle of like finding who am I as a Jew, and I think that kind of created this like, I would say, beautiful balance of knowing all types of walks of life and still hoping, trying to incorporate God into your life. And I feel like in that way, it's a much more meaningful life when you like kind of choose God yourself, as opposed to like grow up in a system where it's just like forced upon you. I don't feel it's as sustainable as it. I also don't feel like it's like what we're here for. Like, if you were just supposed to be forced, like your soul would just been left upstairs, like you're coming down here to kind of choose it for yourself, but you have to choose it, not some parent or hierarchy or system kind of choose it for you. So I feel like that was just a struggle finding that. But now that I'm like, married, have a family, thank God, and like I feel like I'm at a place where there's obviously the day-to-day struggles of just connecting with, soul and like the day-to-days of life and work and all that. That can be a struggle for sure. And like you said, minyan 3 times a day. Like, I don't even make it to minyan 3. I mean, I pray 3 times a day, but I don't make it to minyan 3 times a day. Life gets hectic, this, that. But like, there's always that struggle. But I feel like through all that, if I can just like kind of center myself and tap into like my inner soul, like that'll always be my like, my guiding light, my compass. I feel like we all have soul, so we could be stuck in the boondocks with no meaning, but if you like, you go inside, and then that can be kind of like a guiding light. So I feel like, yeah, I got the day-to-day struggles of like everybody else, but I feel like some of that I've learned to do is just try to like really tap into the the spiritual side versus like the physical side.
Ezzi, that was an amazing shear. I didn't know you're giving good shears like that. Maybe I have to have you come to my shul. No, but seriously, like the soul is such an important part of Judaism, and I think people kind of associate that with more of the Kabbalistic mysticism kind of thing, because people don't really talk about the soul in Judaism and how important it is. Your soul is the only thing that, you really are. Your body also too, like you're supposed to leave it the way that it came. And that whole thing kind of ties into, why you're not supposed to get a tattoo and whatever. But that, again, that's just Jewish opinion. But to go back to what you were saying about being extreme, I think that's something that's so important now, right? Not being too extreme, with everything going on in the world, it's so easy to be extremely one side, extremely that side, whatever. And quite frankly, it's tearing us apart. And I hate to see that. And, going extreme, however, with that being said, going extreme in some cases is actually, I think, very good. And one thing that like you went very extreme on, I would say, is pursuing a career in music. And to pursue a career in music, you got to be extreme. Like, don't get me wrong. You have to be extreme. I mean, you got to be so passionate about it. You're putting in hours and hours of work. You don't know what the end result is going to be. It's such an unsecure career path to go down. So I want to ask you, like, what made you choose music as opposed to another career out there?
Yeah. First off, you're great at what you do. Like your questions are fantastic. I really am enjoying them. They're well thought out and they're very like relevant. So I appreciate that. So it's a great question. You speak to any artist or any guy who's trying to pursue music or any sort of a creative as a a living. It's definitely an uphill battle right off the jump. The world is against you and the odds are against you. It's just the way it is. So for me, growing up, I remember vividly in high school. I was actually, like I was telling you, I was quite learned in high school. So, but I remember like we won like one class or something in like maybe it was chemistry. I don't remember what it was, chemistry or it was English. I don't recall, but I remember like maybe the teacher brought up something along the lines of like, okay, when you get into the real world, yada yada yada. And I'm thinking to myself like, damn, like what in the world am I going to do for a living? There's no way I'm going to be in school like for a living. Like I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm not going to be an accountant. I'm not going to be a guy who goes to the regular 4 years ago. Like that's not me at all. Like I can't, I physically can't. I'm too much of like this, like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I have no idea how I'm going to put food on the table when I get older. I remember like thinking this in like 11th grade, like, oh damn, I'm screwed. Like, cause I'm, this was before like the whole like hustle culture, like on social media, like everybody can make millions with no school. Like this was like before, if you didn't go to school, like you pretty much had no chance of living, like, and this was like, 10 years ago when, social media wasn't really a thing. So at that time I was like, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And for a moment I thought like, okay, I was like I said, I was quite learning at the time. I was like, all right, great. Like maybe I'll find a job as teaching or something, like, whatever. Like I enjoyed it. But I do remember vividly thinking like, I'm not going to do the regular route. And then as I got older and I really started honing in on music as more of just something that I loved. I've always loved music, like ever since a little kid, drumming, singing, piano, the whole thing, like, choirs, like music was always my thing, but I never ever made that jump of like, oh, let me actually pursue this as a career. Two reasons why I never made the jump. One is because I grew up as an Orthodox Jew at the time. To pursue music as an Orthodox Jew, you'd have to be like a Avram Fried or Yaakov Shweki, or like that was the role of Jewish music, and I was nothing close. First off, and it sounded like them. That wasn't where I kind of had any sort of like anything to offer. So I was like, all right, and then what else am I doing? I can go into just the main secular world of music, but that has its own set of challenges. One in terms of being religious, two, it's just super saturated with and just for me at the time, I was just like, yeah, okay, let me figure out what I want to do. But it wasn't like a low hanging fruit of like I'm going to pursue music. And then as I got older, I started writing songs. I only started writing music at 22. So yeah, so it was really interesting how I guess maybe I'm a late bloomer. A lot of like artists start writing at like 15, 16. They're like young teens, but I really in my early 20s when I started. And at that point, I was like, okay, let me put some music out, test it to the world. And even still, it wasn't like, okay, let me do this as a living. It was like, let me just do this. I wasn't thinking about making a living because I was still at the time just a single guy. I had no expenses. I was just living in my parents' home, driving my parents' car. Like I wasn't like getting, hi, Mocha. You want to say hi?
Hi?
My daughter just woke up from her nap.
Oh,
Say hi, David.
She's so cute.
Mocha, come say hi to David. So yeah, after I got engaged, I was like, okay, life's about to happen. I need to figure out a way to actually make a living. And at that point, I kind of dabbled. I was still songwriting and stuff, but it wasn't like making a living. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to do this. And I was like dabbling in random off jobs, but I knew it wasn't like what I wanted to do. And then I actually had this idea of like, okay, I love making music. I love music. I love being around music. If I can't necessarily make a living in Los Angeles, supporting a family, just being a songwriter, let me figure out the next best thing. And that was going into being a DJ, because DJ is music. And I was like, I didn't know how to DJ at the time, but I grew up as a drummer. So beats was always, it came natural to me. And a lot of DJing is beat matching and mixing and rhythm and all that. So I was like, okay, let me pursue that, because that in the like at the time 5 years ago was like, it was an upward trajectory as like DJs becoming a thing in the Jewish world to like do events or like weddings and bar mitzvahs and all that. I was like, yo, that seems like a cool opportunity. Like continue writing music, but also trying to make a living in another facet of music where I can kind of not give up on the dream, you know? So I remember like, yeah, early on, like just early, like 3 or 4 months into when I got married, I was like working some odd job, you know, like a 9 to 5. And I told my wife, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to continue this. Like I want to go out to DJ, you know? And obviously it's risky because at that point I was already paying rent and the car bill and all that with no steady income once I left. But she was like on board. She's like, absolutely, let's do it, you know, go after it. So at that point I kind of just like left the job and went like solo. And it was like the best year of like connecting to God, because there's so much trust that you have to put on him, because every month you need to make your rent. And I had zero income and also $0 saved. I never worked as a kid, or I was never like money motivated. It was like a lot of my friends in like the off season, they'd work and it's that like, I didn't care about money to ever work. It wasn't like a lazy thing. Like I was doing other things. Like I would like write music the whole day, or I would like do other things, but like, I don't know, money never spoke to me until I had to actually make money to pay for things. So I had no money. I pretty much, you know, that first year of marriage, but every month, like I would literally like go tell people in the community, hey, I'm starting to DJ. Can I do an event? Or like you throwing a party? And like random, like, yeah, sure, here's a Hanukkah party. And like I would take like off jobs, and I slowly built the name. And thank God now I'm 5 years in. I'm thank God quite busy as a DJ, but so I still have the ability to, now I'm a DJ, which I work for myself, and I built a production company as well, which I do like lighting and events and all that. And that kind of morphed into this ability to still go to the studio, still write music, still do concerts, and occasionally tour. You know, Hanukkah, I usually travel, and I do like the Ezzi brand, while I'm also able to kind of fund that and my whole life with the event. So it's a really, like you said, it was definitely an uphill battle, and it was definitely takes a lot of extreme. Definitely, it's very extreme to go to your wife 3 months into marriage and say, "Yo, I'm leaving my job." Like that's an extreme thing to do, and I wouldn't have done it if had she not been on board. But you're definitely right about the career to like go after your passion, which I knew was music. I was like, I have no choice. I can't do anything but music. It's just it's in my bones. Like if I don't want to do it, I won't do it. Like anything, I always tell people in life, like, it's not about the discipline. It's not about this, the inspirational videos. It's about, do you want to do this? If that's not there, you will eventually burn out. You know, people like tell me they watch like these like running videos and all these things like, oh, I did 5-6 miles. I'm like, it's all good. It's all great. But did you run 5-6 miles because, you know, this guy on the other part of your phone was telling you to run 6 miles? Or did you run 6 miles because you wanted to run 6 miles and he helped fuel that motivation? Because if that bottom, you know, rock of I want to do this isn't there, you will eventually expire. So for me with like music, it was like, I want to do this. I didn't want to do anything else. So even if I went into a career in real estate just because I was disciplined, after 1 or 2 years, I'd eventually burn out because I don't want to do this. So I knew that like I'm going all in. I have no choice. And thank God it created you know, the ability for me to pursue music. I'm still writing music. I was in the studio this week, you know, recording this week. I have a song coming out soon, and like I'm able to do that, and I love that, and I make a, you know, a smaller living from like just that, the Ezzi brand, because, you know, being a artist who's not like a heavy touring artist like or like a heavy wedding singer like the Yaakov Shweki or these guys who could do these big concerts and make a proper living. It's tough. So there's definitely the ability that DJing brings in, thank God, an ability to create a life of like, okay, I make a living, but also gives me my creative ability to be free. There's that reward a couple of years later when you kind of go all in and bend on yourself. But yeah, to answer your question, you got to be extreme to go after what you really want to do.
Wow, what an answer, guys! Like that was like the fact that you're talking about like how you're not money motivated, I think gets lost a lot. Like let's I just want to repeat what he said. He basically was saying that he was not focused on the money at all and just decided to go for making music because he was passionate about it. And I've said this many, many times on the show. Like passion literally trumps everything in the world. I think, you know, Ezzi is so lucky in the sense that he gets to do this as a career. But, you know, like it gets lost in translation often that people go to a career for money. And like you said, they end up getting burned out. And as somebody that just started their career, you know, 7 weeks into my new job working in finance, like I love it. Like people that don't want to be there, they're wasting their time. And it's just like, things like this, right? This podcast, for example, like I'm so passionate about it that when people ask me, why are you spending 4 or 5 hours a day after work working on this podcast for no money, right? I tell them it comes from passion. Right? I just can tell like you're such a passionate guy. And, what are the things that like is good about passion and about, this, obviously this episode is about branding, is it helps you, right? If you are able to communicate your passion through your brand, it speaks volume to millions and millions of things. And I think, you just talking about how you're kind of doing the DJing as like, even though it's not really a side hustle, like you're doing that to kind of like tie into your music career. It's just absolutely amazing. And I think it's so cool to hear people like you. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, like there's not been an Ezzi on this show, guys. Like this guy is doing something so unique where he's DJing by day and at night he's singing. And, you can tell, if you can't tell by this episode, like how much passion this guy has, like go listen to his music. Like you could tell that way. So I guess like with that being said, like, we talked about at the beginning of this episode, how your music comes from a lot of passion and emotion, right? So why did you decide to go that direction as opposed to talking about, let's say, there's a bunch of artists out there that talk about love, for example, that talk about, I don't know, growing up not fortunate, whatever it is. Like, why did you decide to be vulnerable? And I think both you and I know, like as a male, it's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to be emotional, right? Like we're often taught that we are not allowed to be emotional. We're not allowed to share our emotions. And I think that's the dumbest thing in the world because myself, like I'm a very emotional guy. Like I love to preach my emotion. So I guess talk a little bit about why you have so much emotion behind your music and how you're able to be vulnerable and kind of let your guard down when you produce your music.
Yeah, it's again, great. It's a fantastic question. So I would say it's been a songwriting journey for sure. You're right on that. When I start with my first song ever, it's funny enough. Actually, my first song ever was actually relatively honest and vulnerable, which is kind of unique because I definitely wasn't in a place of being really totally transparent with how I actually felt. And then pretty much my earlier music was very like lighthearted, very much rhymes, not really talking about anything too intense or too vulnerable at all. I wasn't in that place yet. I would say the first like year or two as a songwriter, I definitely put that like, like that gate in front of me. Like, I'm not going to show you who I really am. I'm just going to kind of be like what the world feeds you. Like, like everyone's sounding super tough and super this and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, and there's a completely different persona behind. And then after a while, I got to a point of like, it felt kind of stale. Like I would write rhymes or things, but I was like, yo, this isn't even true, bro. Like, why are you doing this? And I got to like this maybe crossroads of like, I thought as a really songwriter, maybe I couldn't make a career of being honest and I had to just flex and like fake and like what most of the radio kind of is doing, or the rap world, because it started off as just writing raps and not even singing at all. And then I feel like I kind of morphed into this idea of like, yo, I'm just going to try to convey what I'm actually feeling. One song, let's just give, and like I just gave that a run and like immediately the feedback was like 10x of anything I've ever done. I was like, okay, obviously there's something here. And I always tell people as an artist, like, it's like anything in life. You will know if someone's being authentic. Like you can see it through the screen. You can see when you meet a person, I'll know right off the bat. Like I'm very good at assessing people. Like you can tell right off the bat if someone is being sincere or not. And when it comes to music, if people aren't being sincere in their songwriting, it's very difficult to really garner real interest because people don't want to listen to music they don't relate to. And everybody doesn't live an Instagram life. Matter of fact, no one lives an Instagram life. So when you write an Instagram type of song, which is like this unrelatable, you're in the clouds, you're so cool, then the audience isn't really going to connect to that. And it's just, it's fake. I want to listen to something that I connect to. So when I started being more vulnerable, I was like, yo, I'm going all in. And that's when I was like, okay, I kind of dialed up the notch to like all the way. Like, I'm literally gonna let everyone know what's exactly like in here, to where I'm not holding back. And maybe somebody, like my mom always gives me, because she's a mom and she always has like, and she comes from a good place, but she always gives me like people like, you didn't have to say this and this and this, because she's so protective of me. She feels like if I'm doing a song where I'm writing about like that I'm hurt or how much pain I went through, like it hurts her to hear that. So she almost wishes like I wouldn't do that. But I'm like, Mom, when I'm dialing up, I'm dialing up. Like there's no filter. Like I'm gonna say how I feel, And I have some songs about it. So like even my own brother, who like all my family's super supportive. My parents are so supportive of my music and they love my music. And like even my brother like was just telling me like he listened to one of my songs from like 4 years ago, which was like it's pretty intense, a dark song. And he's like, yeah, I never really understood it because like thank God I haven't really been going through any struggles. And like recently, like I guess he went through just a patch of like a more difficult patch of life. He's like, oh, I listened to your song. And I'm like, oh my God, like it hits different. So it's like you're not gonna understand my music, the place I'm coming from, unless you're in a place that's somewhat relatable. If the person's living on cloud nine, whatever, and he's listening to a song about pain and struggle, it's just not going to hit him at that moment in time until he gets to that place. So music has to be an honest expression in order for it to actually penetrate, someone's soul or emotion. So it's been a journey to come to being authentic. But now it's like, yeah, if I'm writing something, I'm scrapping up papers all the time. Like, yeah, that wasn't it. Like, get deeper, go deeper, be more honest, be more vulnerable. Up until a point where it's like, okay, this is a proper song. So it was a journey in very much that started musical, but it was actually within just my personal life when I started being more comfortable as a person. And you talked about men not being able to be emotional or whatever that is. Obviously, through my journey of finding mental health, and just finding, when you find like pure mental health, you find bliss and peace and happiness. And at that point, all the stigmas and all the BS, it just falls away. Like I'm not even on that realm of caring about what the social thing is to do. Like I'm too tapped into MS, the truth, for me to even care about any sort of whatever, labels or the men should do. Like I'm doing what I do. So like, I don't even care about what the world expects me to do. Like, I think the coolest thing to do is to cry. Like I honestly wish like I can just cry in the moment more often, just to be so tapped like that. If someone's so tapped into their emotions, dude, you're so connected. Like there's like so little blockages. Like I want to be at a level of just being able to like connect to my emotions all the time. So like you said, like, you like being emotional. I'm like, I'm envious of like, I'm envious of anybody who could just tap right into emotions. That just means you're so in tune with the truth. Because if you're not, that means there's like, I have a friend, he can't cry. And he knows that there's like so much trauma there. Like he's like, I can't cry, but it's not a good thing. That means there's so much blockage from like here to his, ability to cry, that like, yeah, that's not a good thing. So the ability like to put on this front that like you have to be some super, I think that's a whole lot of living in lies. And I think we try to live a life of truth. So I'm just an authentic person. And when you're an authentic person, I think everything else just comes natural. You're comfortable. I'm comfortable in public. I'm comfortable in private. I'm comfortable with myself. Some people have a hard time being alone. I'm so comfortable alone. I'm so comfortable in public. I'm so comfortable with every type of person, the wealthy, the poor, the people coming for stuff. Like I am just a comfortable person, and I try to look at people as just souls. So when you live a life like that, all those labels and stigmas and hierarchies, I don't live in that realm. Like I don't care about all that. I genuinely don't. Like I have friends from all types of whatever the social status is, from the uber wealthy to people who can't pay for anything, and they're all like close, and I'm close to them, and I don't look at them any different. It's like, that's all physical things. When a person is living in a physical world and you live in a physical realm, it's very easy to get caught up in like, okay, money, status, cool, looks, but all that's just that's an illusion. So I don't want to live an illusion. I want to live like, this world is enough an illusion. Like in like Kabbalah, we see people how like Olam Haza is already an illusion. The real life is like up there. But what does that mean? You can live that up there life in here if you just strip away the physicality, because you're still tapping into the spiritual. That's really the whole purpose of life, is to bring down the spiritual into the physical. But we get so wrapped up, even as Orthodox Jews, we'll get wrapped up in like, looks and money and status and all that. But the more you do that, that means you're just buying into that physicality, which is a world of lies. So it's like, yeah, then people won't be emotional, and people won't be true, and people will feel like insecure to do this and that. Like I don't play by those rules, and since that rule book isn't even in my mental vocabulary, I don't have that rule book. Therefore, I just feel a lot more free to write music how I want to be how I want to be vulnerable, be whatever I want to be at that time. And when you live by those rules, I just feel like it's a freer life. And I feel like that journey kind of came just in finding mental health, and finding peace and understanding that like you are not your brain. Your brain is just a physical, the computer that your soul has to navigate through. And when you realize that you're just like spirituality behind that, and you're a piece of God, at that point you're free. The only thing that can limit you is the physicality. So that learning in my personal life translated into the songwriting, and that gave me the ability to just be honest and vulnerable, because it's the same thing. Like, there shouldn't be a big disconnect between who you are as a person and who you are as a songwriter, because if there is, there's probably some lack of authenticity there. If a guy's like super cool and blah, 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 and then like his songwriting is like, wait, where did I miss that? Like, I always love when people tell me, oh, you're so like, you're so cool and down to earth. And I didn't think that like in real life you'd be that way. And I'll be like, but it's got to be the same. Like, if what I'm putting on into music isn't me, so then it's an inauthentic representation of me. And I don't want that. I want it to be the same. So like, I encourage everyone to just be them true selves and stop caring about if you're in the realm of caring about people, then you just need to reset your rules, and then you'll find that freedom. Either way, I can go on forever about this.
This is that, like, it takes a special kind of person to actually like preach what he says. And I think, being completely vulnerable here, like, I think I'm still in touch with, kind of the physical part of the world and the fame and the money and all that stuff. Like, not gonna lie, like, part of me wants to chase that, right? And I think I'm almost at the point where like I'm able to kind of tune that out. But it's very clear that Ezzi's 100% there. Like, he couldn't care if he made $1 last year or whatever. Like, he will continue to make music no matter what. And like, it's so cool to hear from people like Ezzi. Like, it's so special because he has such a different outlook on life than most of us do. And what he was talking about, Instagram life. There's no Instagram life. It's so true. We spend 5 hours a day. And by the way, I suggest all of you go look at your screen time and see how much time you spend on social media seeing, oh, I want to be like this person. Oh, I want to be like that person. The way that we live life now is so unnatural and unauthentic. And, it's just so, again, it's hard to be emotional. Kind of like what you were saying, like with crying. I think that's a big thing. And for me, like, I don't normally cry at like happy things. And I think the first time I actually cried when I was happy was I had like a graduation, like, it was like a graduation party for just me and like some of my close family members. And that was the first time I cried happy tears in my life.
I just want to say, sorry, I don't want to cut you off for 1 second. Just, you're giving me too much credit. It was such a long journey getting to this place. And I for sure when I was 22, like, you're way light years ahead of when I was so always wrapped up in the physicality of like everything else, the chasing whatever, like you said, fame and money. Like, maybe I wasn't so much into money, but for sure, like the concept of like fame or being cool, like, I was into that. Like, of course, I'm human. I think for me, it was year to year process of being less and less happy to realize something isn't working here. And there was like this, like, almost like I had to change the moment. It was like, it was changed before I break type of thing. And then I realized, okay, God, this is that peace that everyone speaks about, the mystics and the rabbis. And the peace is just breaking free from all that BS that we live in. But like, this is, I would say, relatively in the last 4 or 5 years development, but for sure, like, I don't want to pretend like I'm higher than anyone else. Like, I'm super hella impressed with you at 22 that you're already like on those levels, but like, it took me many years and I'm still, dealing with it, but definitely I found like the promised land as opposed to like being stuck in that world of lies. But I don't want to come across like, I'm like the super heebie-jeebie. Like, I'm into it. Sorry. But yeah, either way.
This guy, I don't know what he's even talking about, this nonsense of him pretending like he's above everybody else. Like, this guy is so humble, guys. Like, this is unbelievable stuff right here. Like, just talking about just everything that he's saying. Again, I knew this episode was not going to be like any other episode because Ezzi has such a different perspective on life. And I think it's what makes his brand so strong, right? The whole point of this episode is talk about your personal brand. And I believe that each proud Jew has a unique personal brand that they can promote. So Ezzi, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a tough question. I know we were talking about just now, we were just talking about fame and money, and that's a big part of growing your brand, right? By definition, having a big brand, you got to be famous. So I guess, like, how do you balance that, right? You want to have that some sort of fame, but not chase it. So how do you grow your brand by not chasing the fame?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's a tough question. I would probably be guilty of uh, taking like the back seat because I just want to live a peaceful life. Like that's really what I want, and there's nothing that even comes close to that want. Is just peaceful life. So like if someone would say like, yo, you can be as famous as Justin Bieber and have all the, and versus like just have like a peaceful happy life. Like it's not even like there's nothing to even talk about. So because of like my super hyper focus on just living a peaceful, free, like loving life, like maybe I'm guilty of kind of taking a backseat on the branding, and I'm not as active as I should be on socials, and I'm not as active as like getting after it, and I'm not like super rigid. Okay, I got to, because it's just not my top priority, and it'll never be. My top priority is always like, I just want to be free and happy. And I realize that there's going to be this kind of connect where almost like I realize that I think my purpose is probably just bringing music in a way, and these concepts and talks like like these that we're having right now, of just bringing in that positive spin on that. And almost it's like, not like let's go after the fame. It's almost like it's like a shlichus. It's almost like a mission. It's almost like this is a purpose, what I'm here for to do. So that kind of motivates me more to get after it. Like, okay, put out the song and go on social media, because at the end of the day, like I'm at a point in my life where I no longer am motivated by becoming really famous or having loads of money. Like I don't have any sort of like checklist in my mind of, okay, I want a big mansion. Like it's just not there. It's not in the part, or like I want to have social status of being a wealthy guy. Like it genuinely, it's not there. I don't have a want. I don't care about it. I have loads, and I mean loads of friends who are all multimillionaires and hang out with them. I'm very well acquainted with that world. There isn't a fiber. I mean, I don't want to say fiber being. There's for sure a lot of, there's definitely a lot of physicality still left. But I'm saying is like, my goals are not like I want to be a millionaire. They're just not there. They're just not there. It'd be nice. Obviously, I want comfort. I want a big house so my family can enjoy in space. But it's just not like at the top of the food chain at all. Like, it's just my as someone who's gone through mental health struggles, it's just to have that peace of mind. So it's like, when going after this career and trying to be famous, or really, I'm trying to be successful, I do have a fire under my belly. Like I want to, like you just said, MSG, obviously, you're referring to Ishay Ribo, who is a super big inspiration to me. And I think he's a great example, because Ishay Ribo doesn't strike me as a type of guy who like super grinded his way to fame with like an intense, like Hollywood type manager. It was almost like, it's just God, like God put him there to reach people. He put out a song and it just went viral. Almost like it was meant to be. It was superhuman versus human. I don't think Ishay Ribo strikes me as type of guy, like, I'm a go-getter. Let me get this money. Let's get this bread. He's just like a simple guy writing songs who has 15,000 people show up to sing and connect to themselves and to God and to him, right? Just like have it with like this beautiful unifying experience. And I feel like, but he's doing his part of like his ishtadlus, as we say, like his obligation of like, okay, trying his best. But ultimately, he's kind of just letting God run that. And I feel like I want to take inspiration from that, where it's like, yeah, I can try and get a social media manager and really go after it. But I feel like if it's meant to be, it'll be. And if you're kind of aligned with the right ideas, I feel like, yeah, I do have to be more active, proactive in my brand. And you're right, but not from a place of like, oh, let's be famous. From a place of like, there's probably still more people to reach. There's still more to do. Like I'm inspired by Ishay Ribo that he can reach 15,000 people on a deep positive level, and he doesn't have any like celebrity in him. Like, yo, I'm him, I'm that guy. Like he's just, because he's God's guy, So when it's about us, the ego, it's lost. Like at that point, just hang it up. It's over. But when it's about God, then it's not even about you. Like Ishay Ribo is a man of God, and I think people love him so much because of that, because we tend to connect to like that part of us who just wants to be authentic. And when we see a guy who has fame, and I'm sure, thank God, he's doing quite well in terms of money, but yet he's just a simple guy, and in his service of God, and in his lyrics, he writes just about an authentic connection to God. All he wants to do is serve him, and then we all we love that because our souls are thirsty for that. It's like, yeah, that gets me going. That inspires me. Like I want to do that so I can maybe reach more people and reach myself. Like that is purposeful. But like, oh, let's go be famous, let's go make money. I feel like that ship kind of sailed with me. Although it was definitely there. That's when I started music. I wanted to be famous and cool like everyone else. And for sure when I started this journey. But now it's got to be like balanced that proactiveness of let's build a brand. But what's the intentionality behind that? Is it to be famous, or is it let's continue this mission? Let's reach more people. Let's inspire more people. When I get messages of people say, yo, this song got me through such hard times, or this. I've gotten super intense messages of people who've like lost family members, or people who are going through things, and they'll send me Instagram messages or what's like, this song helped me. Like, that's like, okay, Hashem, thank you for that blessing and opportunity that I was able to be a vessel for that. Like, if you look at yourself as like, oh, I'm that guy, it's lost. Like, the whole thing's lost. But if you look at yourself like, I was a vessel to carry out God's mission, it's like, oh my God, it's like, yo, let's freaking go. Like, that fires me up more than like fame, for sure.
I apologize to those of you who have just ran through your brick wall of your room. Like, if I wasn't doing this interview, I'd be doing the same thing. So you can bill Ezzi for fixing your wall, but oh my goodness, Ezzi, that's unbelievable that you think of your brand not necessarily in the monetizing fame kind of way. You think about it more from the perspective of like, if I reach this person, it's, you know, it's God that made me reach him, which is like, that's unbelievable. I don't think I've ever talked to somebody that's thought like you. And, you know, this conversation alone has taught me so much about, you know, where I could maybe prioritize my thoughts and how I could build my brand with this podcast. But Ezzi, before we unfortunately end this episode, I want you to tell people where you can be found across social media. I know you don't like to, you know, do the whole promoting or whatever, but people need to listen to your music because, like, you know, your music is absolutely fantastic, but it's just the messaging behind it, I think, is what really makes it. Like, your beats, obviously amazing, but what sets you apart is your messaging. So I want people to listen to your music and kind of like put two and two together, like this interview and your music, trying to understand who you are. So I know I just rambled for 2 minutes, but where can people find your music?
So my name is Ezzi, Ezzi, as it says on the bottom of the screen, and you can find me on Spotify, which is my biggest platform in terms of music listeners, but I'm on Apple Music. I'm on, I think, all the music streaming services. On YouTube, you can find me Ezzi. You'll find my channel there somewhere. I don't have a big YouTube presence, but it'll come up. I'm not sure if my YouTube is Ezzi or Ezzi Boy. Instagram, I'm Ezzi Boy, which is EZZIBOI. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that like I'm active on. It's pretty much Instagram and Spotify is like where people would know me as, you know. So I try to like post some things. Definitely new songs coming. You know, I'm really excited about, you know, some of the new releases that are, you know, please God to come soon. And yeah, I mean, you know, type in EZZI. You know, it's funny because like there definitely is this duality where it's like I do want to be successful and reach more people, but a part of that comes from maybe my soul yearning for like purpose. So I feel like if it happens and like I sell out, like you said, MSG, then great. But if it doesn't, there's also, it's like, well, if it was meant to be, it would be. Like, I believe in God. Like, you know, so if you're doing basically what you're supposed to be doing, like, that's also comforting because, okay, so I'm like, as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, like the results, the end game, it really doesn't even matter. Like, I'm not a results driven person. Am I doing what I need to be doing now type of person? And the results are usually always, look at it's always about like that stuff comes after the fact. It's almost like, okay, cool, the results. So when people get to climb these high ladders and like they win and it's emotional, it's not because they win. It's because like all the time that they were like locked in the now and it finally meant something. It's like, oh my God. So those moments are magical for sure. But I feel like, yeah, like I would love if more people listen to my music, and I would love if my music can inspire more people. But then at the same time, it's like, you know, if it doesn't, it's also good because I feel like as long as I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm telling people like I'm like when you hit me up to do this podcast, of course I want to talk to people. I want to let more people know, but I'm not like actively emailing people. Yo, can I be on your? I already admitted to you, I'm not so good with the brand development and business side of things. I don't have that like manager business side to me. Maybe I'm too much of a purist for that, but definitely when I have the opportunity like this podcast, I want to let people know like, I write music, and I would love if you connect with music. It's also super fulfilling for me when people listen to my music and sing music and connect to it. It's like, oh my God, it gives me that chizuk to continue writing music and all that. So for sure, I would love if I knew, anyone gives it a listen. Spotify is EZZI, and Apple Music's the same, and Instagram is Ezzi Boy, BOI at the end. And yeah, I would love to just stay in touch and whatever. Like, I'm easily accessible. Like, my number is out there. Like, I get messages, thank God, on text or WhatsApp like every week from random. I feel bad. There's this kid, and who I think it calls me every morning from Florida, but it's always, my phone's on do not disturb when I sleep. And for the last week, I think about 7 missed calls. My number's out there, and he keeps texting me, and I meant to call him back, but I forget to, because by the time I start my day, it's just, it goes into the file of missed calls. But like, I'm accessible. I'm out there. I love talking to people. A random guy says, "Oh, I love your music." I'll send a voice up. Like, there's no like, "Yo, I can't." Like, I love engagement. Like, that keeps me going. So definitely hit me up, reach out, Instagram message or whatever that is, email, all that stuff. So for sure.
Wow, Ezzi, oh my God, this is fantastic. I think this is going to be one of my standout episodes. So, I mean, I think, of course, man, I mean, everybody go follow Ezzi, but I think I know there's somebody in your life right now that needs to listen to Ezzi's messaging, because let's be real here, shit hits the fan every single day for people. And, Ezzi, like he mentioned, his music talks a lot about coming from a dark place, and you'll really connect with it. If you know somebody going through a tough time right now, send them Ezzi's music. It's the least you can do. So please share this episode, Ezzi's music, reach out to him with any questions or anything. Get this man to MSG. I know he doesn't want to be there, but he needs to be. He needs to be.
I definitely want to be there. I would love to be there. I don't put that as like a benchmark or dream. Like, I try not to get lost in the goals. If I was there, it'd be a dream come true. But like, yeah, for sure. I just try to stay, level-headed for sure.
Yes. All right. Well, let's share Ezzi's music. Let's share this episode. Thank you, Ezzi. Until next time, keep schmoozing.